Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Spotlight on Education. I'm your host, Tina Duckett, Director of Public Relations for the Troup County School System. Spotlight on Education serves as a venue for you to learn more about the Troup County School System. Joining me today in the studio is Dr. Jeffrey Turner. Thank you, Dr. Turner, for joining me.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
We are so glad you took time out of your very busy schedule to share more news about the Troup County School System's Transportation Department. Again, thank you for being here.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And you know, we hear so much about our Transportation Department. We know that it's a very essential piece to the operations of a functional school system. So before we go in depth, please share just an overview about Troup County's Transportation Department, your mission, and some of the wonderful things you're doing there.
Okay, glad to. Our mission is to provide the safest and most efficient transportation for our students. We have 171 buses in our bus fleet. We have our average age of our buses are 10 and a half years old. We run 117 routes daily, which those buses, that the 117 may end up running 2 to 3 routes depending on the schools that they serve. So really we run around 936 routes daily out of those 117 buses. We transport about a little over 60% of the student body, which is about 8,000 students.
Okay.
And we do that twice a day. We transport in the morning and afternoon. So.
And what does that equate to in a year's time? How many miles will the buses have traveled?
We average roughly right around 1 million miles a year. So
Wow.
a little less and a little more.
That's hard to believe, but I know when those buses are out there and with the number of buses that we have and the different routes, yeah, I guess that would be the case, huh? So again, you said, how many routes was that again? 100 and...
Well, we run 117 buses.
Okay.
And they cover roughly 936 routes.
936 routes,
And
okay.
The Troup County is divided up into 3 zones.
Okay.
The Callaway zone, the LaGrange zone, and the Troup zone. And we have supervisors that cover those zones. In Callaway, we have Brian Williamson, and in LaGrange, we have Sandra Williams. In the Troup zone, we have Jerry Scarborough.
Oh, okay.
Then we also have a zone that we call our special ed and our Hope Academy, and that zone supervisor is Mr. Sid Shelnut.
Okay, good, good. So you have a great administrative support staff as well
We do.
to keep the operations flowing smoothly?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
we do.
Okay, and you mentioned the number of routes, and I know that the number you mentioned is a reduced number of routes from previous years. What type of cost savings do we see as a result of that?
When you reduce a route, you reduce your cost, and we have been working very diligently over the last 4 years to have our routes more efficient and to reduce the routes. And we've reduced it, the number of buses from Route 140 down to 117. So we have cut and been able to do some changes and some ways to make them more efficient. But total savings over that time has been approximately close to $1 million over that 4 years.
Oh, right.
And that'll be continual savings as we continue to move forward.
Okay. And we know that the buses, as normal wear and tear as with any vehicle, what is the average age of the fleet of our buses?
Our average age right now is 10 and a half years.
Okay, now how does that compare to the state? Is that normal?
It's becoming more normal with the economy that we're in. We're having to, buses are expensive, so we're not allowed or not able to purchase as many buses as we have in the past, and that's we see that statewide. The average you would like to be at is 5 to 6 years of your bus fleet.
Okay.
And
All right. But I know that our buses are still in pretty good condition for the most part.
Yes, ma'am.
And we know this through annual safety inspections. Can you share a little bit about those?
Yes, ma'am. The state has mandated that all school buses throughout the state have an annual inspection, and we get our fleet. We send our buses through, and each one is annually inspected with a state inspector that comes in and actually inspects the buses. And it's a very thorough inspection, bumper to bumper, inside, outside, underneath, anything from the lights to the tires and so forth. Just everything about the bus they inspect. Last year we had a highest rate, a passing rate of 99% of when the buses first time go through the inspection line. 99% of our buses passed. We had 3 buses that had minor issues that we fixed, sent them back through, and they passed as well. So the buses are safe, the safest form of transportation. But we do that annual inspection, and the shop does a great job in maintaining our buses. They go through a monthly inspection, not as thorough, check the brakes, the oil, the fluids every month, and filters. And so our shop does a great job in keeping those buses well maintained, and the drivers, they're responsible for making sure the buses meet certain specifications every morning and every afternoon before they get on their bus. It's called a pre-trip inspection that the drivers do. And that helps us to catch anything. We try to be more proactive and preventative than we reactive.
Reactive, yeah.
Exactly.
Right. So you said the state conducts the inspections?
The state conducts the annual inspection once a year,
Okay.
but our shop staff, they inspect on a monthly basis. The drivers are responsible for coming through the shop. There's a day that they're scheduled to come through on a monthly basis, and our shop staff actually inspects on a monthly basis.
Okay. Now, the Troup County Board of Education is considering purchasing new buses. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes,
Okay. Would you share how many new buses are we considering?
we are looking at 7 buses. The state of Georgia allocates monies to each county, and it varies from year to year. This year we're allocated 7 buses, so we are looking at purchasing 7 new buses for the bus fleet.
Now, what are some of the features of a new bus versus that of an old one?
There's not a whole lot of new features per se. We'll have better economy with better, newer technologies in the engine. You'll see a little bit sleeker design of the body. But the state of Georgia has very specific specifications that each bus company has to meet in order to sell a bus in Georgia. Those specifications are all geared towards safety and safety of the students.
Okay. And let's briefly discuss, because we know that, at least I believe, that there are cameras on all of the buses. Is that the case?
Yes, ma'am.
And will the new buses also have cameras?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What's the purpose of having a camera on a bus?
All the buses do have digital cameras on the buses, and basically the digital cameras are just another set of eyes, because as you know, a driver is their backs turned toward the students, and they can't see everything that happens on a bus. We do have, like I said, cameras on buses. It's a tool for the administrators to use to determine what happened on the bus. If there's an allegation of something going on or something happens, or that camera allows the administrator to determine if it did happen or if it didn't happen, and then make a judgment about the situation.
Right. And that's important for parents to know, and I know we'll talk a little bit more about how they can support safety measures as related to bus transportation.
Right.
I would also like to point out that National Bus Safety Week, I hope I'm saying that correctly,
Yes, ma'am.
takes place the 3rd week in October. What's the focus of that week? What is it all about?
Yes, it is. It is in October, and the focus is to really on bus safety. And the schools get involved, and they recognize and appreciate the bus driver. A lot of them will bring the bus driver into school and give them a token of appreciation. The kids will make things for the driver or so forth like that. But it's also an emphasis. There's curriculum, school bus safety curriculum that is taught in the schools to just re-emphasize the need to be very careful on and around buses.
And as you mentioned, to show appreciation to school bus drivers.
Exactly.
And we'd like to say hats off to our school bus drivers, because they have both a challenging and yet enriching job, which is essential, again, to the operations of the Troup County School System. So.
Exactly. Another thing that we do that week is there's a statewide poster contest, and there's different levels of the elementary, middle school, and it's that the students will actually produce a poster. There's a theme, and they produce a poster. We do a county-wide competition The top two in each category from the county moves on to a state competition, and then from the state to a national competition.
Now, is that a part of what I'm familiar with to some degree, the bus rodeo? Is that a part of that as well?
No, ma'am. That's a different.
That's a different initiative. So, well, share about the bus rodeo.
Be glad to.
Okay.
The school bus rodeo is an event of 10 maneuvers that drivers will actually compete against each other. They'll be scored on each event. It's one of the best ways to improve the driver's abilities. It's kind of like an obstacle course that the driver would basically have to drive through. There's a serpentine where they have to go in and out of cones. It's what we call offset alley, where they have to drive through a set of cones and then immediately turn to the right and then back to the left and drive through another set of cones without hitting the cones. There is a alley dock where they're actually backing into a makeshift alley. There's a parallel parking event, diminishing clearance event where the driver has to drive through a set of barriers, and the barriers get closer and closer. And the last barrier, there's only an inch clearing on either side, and they have to drive the bus through without hitting the barrier. They drive through the 10 events, and then we take the scores from each event, and the top two from Troup County has the opportunity to participate in a statewide rodeo that's held in Perry, Georgia, in June. And then the top two from the state rodeo actually goes to an international rodeo.
Wow.
And Georgia's done very well in the last few years, having top 5 winners, and even a couple of times we've actually placed first in the international rodeos. But back to the rodeo, it's a big event, and we have a lot of sponsors in the community, and we really appreciate all the support from the different vendors in the community. And if it wasn't for them helping us out, we wouldn't be able to continue to offer this
And
for the drivers.
you have approximately 20 or so, it seems, businesses?
Yes, ma'am.
Are they all local businesses that support this
All-
initiative?
Pretty much all of them are local vendors. We do have a couple that, like the bus companies that we buy buses from.
Okay.
They're not local, but I'd say 80–90% of them are all local vendors that really see the need and the support for the bus drivers, and a motivation to help them improve their skills to be better drivers and be safer drivers for our students.
Okay, and I know that the drivers look forward to the bus rodeo. Do you see quite a bit of participation?
Not as much as we would like, but we do
Okay.
have about usually 30 to 40 drivers that come out and compete.
Okay.
And so we have a good little turnout, and we have a lot of fun. And a lot of the comments afterwards is always, I learned something today, and that's the main thing we want, is for them to improve their skills, to learn something new, and to give a little confidence. I can drive this bus, and I can parallel park this bus, or whatever it may be. So.
And is there a certain amount of training that goes into becoming a bus driver?
Yes, ma'am. In order to get your bus driver's license, the state requires you to sit through a 4-day class for 4 hours a day, and then after that we do what we call field training, and where they actually go out and actually drive a bus, not on the road yet, but on a course, kind of like the rodeo course, and do maneuvers. And then there is some driving on the road. There is some driving with and without students in order to get your license, and we do that all in-house. We have the trainers in-house where we can train someone who would like to be a bus driver to get their bus driver's license. And takes about 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the ability of the person driving a vehicle, school bus.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that. Are there other bus safety initiatives that are coming up that you can share information about?
Sure. Safety is paramount. That's our primary goal, and that is something we're always will be emphasizing and striving. And this year, our safety theme for this year is the loading and unloading at bus stops, because bus stops are school bus transportation is the safest form of transportation. But unfortunately, at school buses, sometimes kids get injured or there's a fatality, and it's what we want to avoid.
Right.
So our initiative is to really educate the loading and unloading at bus stops. Along with that, we are looking at instigating the school bus stop violations. That's an issue that's across the state of Georgia, where motorists will run the stop arm, and that's where kids are most dangerous or most vulnerable to being hit.
And describe what the stop arm is, because when I first heard that, I'm like, stop arm, where is the stop arm?
On the school bus,
Okay.
right by the driver's window, there's a stop arm that comes out, and there's red lights flashing. When the school bus is coming up to a bus stop, the bus driver will signal a caution, signal the amber lights, and that'll be the yellow lights that flash.
Right.
And then once the bus driver makes a stop, the stop arm comes out, and that stop arm, by the state law, has the capability to stop all traffic. And motorists need to understand that if that stop arm's out, they cannot be passing a bus. And that's when the students are actually loading and unloading from the bus. So that stop arm that comes out on the side, that's what we're talking about when we have talking about stop arm violations.
Okay, can you further describe how that law works if you're talking about a 4-lane or 5-lane highway?
Be glad to. On a 2-lane road, when the bus is stopped and the stop arm is out, both sides of the road, traffic has to stop. Oncoming and the cars coming up behind the bus, it has to stop. On a multi-lane road that's got a turn lane, all traffic still has to stop on that. If it's 4 lanes and with a turn lane, there's a 5-lane road. The bus is stopped, bus stop arm is out, all traffic has to stop no matter which direction you're traveling. Now, the only time that a traffic does not have to stop if it's a divided highway with a median or some type of barrier, cement wall or some kind of barrier, or again a grassy median. The traffic going in the opposite direction does not have to stop, but they do have to use caution.
Okay.
There's a situation recently in Georgia where a child was trying to cross a median and was struck and died. So it's very serious. When you see, anytime a motorist sees a school bus, especially with that stop arm out, you have to assume there's students around, and you have to use caution. And again, you only on a divided highway on the other side of the road, that's when you do not have to stop, but you do have to use caution and slow down. But everything else, you must stop when that stop arm is out.
And we've been fortunate so far here in Troup County.
Yes, ma'am. We have been very fortunate in Troup County. We have had some near misses, and it always amazes me that we don't have more things happening, because you think about traveling 1 million miles a year, you think about transporting 8,000 students morning and afternoon, 180 days a year. It always amazes me that we have a great driving fleet, a great fleet of drivers who really care about the students and take the time to train them and teach them to know how to behave or handle a school bus stop. But still, it just amazes me that we haven't had something.
Well, we are grateful. We're grateful for our drivers, for their training, and for parents also enforcing proper measures to prevent fatalities and injuries while waiting for the school bus. Is there something else you'd like to share, like the bus shelters?
Yes, ma'am. We are pleased to partner with West Point, the City Council, and with Kia.
Yes.
They had an initiative they wanted to put up some school bus stop shelters in the city of West Point, and we were able to work with them and to locate some areas with some high populations of students. And they've started the process. They have one up, and they're looking at putting in a couple of more, I think 3 or 4 more throughout the next few months. So, and anytime we can combine bus stops and eliminate a bus stop, that's safer for the students, because again, bus stops is where things happen. So if you can eliminate a bus stop and combine, then you have less chances of a tragedy or something happening.
So bus shelters are important, and again, we thank the City Council of West Point and Kia Motors Manufacturing Georgia for making that possible. Before we conclude today's program, would you share highlights of your department goals, some things you'd hope to accomplish this year?
Well, again, I can't emphasize safety is our #1 goal, and then efficiency, route efficiency. In our economic times, running transportation is not cheap. They're expensive, and so we try to do due diligence and look for ways that we can be more efficient in our routing. So safety is paramount. The loading, unloading bus stops, the safety of the students at those the stop arm violations, those are all some initiatives or goals that we would like to continue the high level of safety and efficiency that we're offering now.
Okay, and are there opportunities for positions within your department as related to bus drivers? Does that exist?
Yes, ma'am. We're always looking for good bus drivers. As you say, it's one of the toughest jobs in the county, no doubt about it.
Sure.
But if you like kids, it's a good schedule to have. But we are looking for good bus drivers, and we do offer the training in-house. So if anybody's interested, they can contact my office at the Transportation office at the school board.
Okay.
We do have the applications there. They can come by and fill out the applications.
Okay, and can you give them an address where they may stop
Sure.
by, or a number that they can call?
It's 100 North Davis Road, LaGrange, Georgia. The phone number is 706-812-7935.
Okay, all right. And earlier we mentioned how parents can support safety messages, with their child while they're at home. What would you say to parents to just encourage them to continue to talk to their children? What would you say to those parents?
We appreciate all the support the parents can give, and to continue to work with their child, and the importance of being the safety and the seriousness of following the bus rules, following the instructions of the driver, working with the school, working with the driver, because we're all after the same thing, and that is to safely transport the students to and from school.
Yes.
That's our main goal, and we just need to all work together in trying to achieve that, and we can, and we do that. We have good support with this community.
Well, I am so glad. Thank you again for joining me
You're welcome.
today and
My
sharing
pleasure.
such important news about transportation, and actually providing some information about the direction we're taking. And thank you for watching Spotlight on Education. Thank you to LGTV, Philip Sledge and Keith McDowell, for helping us make this possible. And until next time, have a wonderful day.